Welcome back to the deep dive. If the past week felt like the universe decided to run a stress test on modern society, you were definitely not alone.
Yeah, it really did feel that way.
It's like everything we rely on, our digital lives, global stability, it all suddenly revealed this new layer of complexity, a surprising opaqueness, and frankly, just a whole lot of unpredictability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we're taking a deep dive into what was a truly wild week. We saw three seemingly separate global events unfold, but each one kind of exposed these really dark systemic vulnerabilities. Seriously, buckle up.
Right. And our mission here, it isn't just about recounting the headlines, It's about truly understanding why these things matter.
Exactly.
We're connecting the dots between these events, pulling out the most important bits, and trying to uncover their deeper implications for all of us.
Yeah.
Because what you'll find is that these aren't just far-off news stories. They're actually about the very systems we rely on, like, every single day. And understanding how fragile they can be, well, that can genuinely empower you, help you navigate this increasingly unpredictable world we're in.
Okay, let's unpack this wild ride then.
Yeah.
Starting with maybe the most head-scratching one.
Right.
The Great Digital Disappearing Act.
Ah, the Facebook groups.
Right. Imagine logging onto Facebook, ready to catch up with your communities, only to find that thousands of groups, they just vanished.
Poof.
Gone. Not a simple glitch, not a bug, but what pretty quickly felt like a full-blown digital community catastrophe. It wasn't just inconvenient, it sparked widespread panic and just utter confusion as people's online homes, their businesses, they simply ceased to exist.
And the scale of this was just huge, really unprecedented. It wasn't just one area. We saw this impact globally,
Right.
from the U.S. and Canada all the way over to Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam.
Wow.
Millions member groups were hit hard. There was a 3.5 million strong AI discussion group, a 3 million person interior design group.
Yeah.
Gone. But it wasn't just the big ones. It was also those incredibly vital niche communities. Everything from bird watching to Pokemon, critical parenting support networks, even mechanical keyboard enthusiasts. Seriously.
Mechanical keyboard.
Yeah, no digital community seems safe from this sudden, erasure.
And here's where it just goes from chaotic to downright absurd. Group administrators started getting these totally bizarre violation notices.
Oh, I saw some of those. Unbelievable.
I mean, can you even imagine? It's a bird-watching group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dedicated to birds, accused of nude content.
Nude birds. How does that even work?
I'm trying to picture what the AI thinks a naked bird looks like.
Then an interior design group, showing off sofas and wallpaper, flagged for being a dangerous organization.
Right, because floral patterns are so threatening.
And a Pokemon group, full of Pikachu and Squirtle, apparently linked to terrorism. The sheer frustration and disbelief from these managers who'd poured countless hours into building these online spaces, it was just palpable. Felt like a bad sci-fi movie. Yeah, but it wasn't just a funny anecdote, was it? The real-world consequences went way beyond just inconvenience.
Oh, for sure.
We saw huge emotional distress. I mean, imagine losing your main support network overnight. Whether it's for parenting advice, coping with an illness, or, those vital LGBTQ plus communities where people find acceptance and safety.
Suddenly cut off.
Exactly. And for small businesses, this was catastrophic. Facebook groups are often central to their marketing, their customer communication, sometimes their entire sales funnel.
Right.
We already know from past outages, even shorter ones, that just a few hours offline can slash sales. There was that bamboo socks retailer example, right? During an earlier, shorter outage, their daily sales dropped to a quarter of normal.
Wow.
So this disappearance, which was way more prolonged and widespread, caused significantly greater economic damage. It really forced businesses to rethink relying so heavily on just one platform.
This whole mess just screams, was this a technical error, or was it a catastrophic failure of the AI content moderation? Or maybe both.
It feels like both, yeah.
And it seems to tie directly into Meta's broader strategy, doesn't it? Mark Zuckerberg's been pretty open about his plan to replace human engineers with AI, relying on these systems to manage the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like their AI automation had some rather severe teething problems, if you ask me.
You're really hitting the nail on the head there. I think the core insight isn't just Meta having teething problems, but the revelation that our digital commons, these places vital for businesses and communities, are built on these opaque single points of failure.
Like a house of cards.
Kind of. The failure of this AI moderation system could stem from a few things. Maybe the training data was biased or just too vague, leading it to overreact.
Right.
AI also just fundamentally lacks human context, semantic understanding. It does pattern matching. It can't grasp irony or sarcasm or cultural nuances. The very things that separate a harmless joke like let's bomb this party own from a real threat.
So it sees bomb and freaks out.
Pretty much, leading to these absurd misclassifications. There's even the possibility that, malicious bots could flooded the system with false reports, overwhelming and misleading the AI.
That's another angle.
Whatever the exact root cause, it really showed that when a platform leans too heavily on unsupervised automation for complex, nuanced tasks, well, the results can be disastrous. It makes our digital identity, our social capital, feel way more fragile than we probably realized.
And Meta's response through all this, just vague statements, right? A total lack of transparency about what actually happened, automated rejection of appeals.
Yeah, even for people paying for Meta-verified support, they reported getting the same frustrating automated nope.
It must have felt like screaming into the void, just completely powerless.
That's a perfect way to put it. This whole incident really raises an important question. What does this trust rift mean for the future of digital communities?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
Well, we're already seeing signs. There's a collective lawsuit brewing against Meta, online petitions demanding accountability, getting tens of thousands of signatures. It just underscores that profound powerlessness users felt, watching their digital lives vanish thanks to some opaque algorithm with no human insight to help.
Right.
It really forces you to consider the inherent fragility of your own digital presence, your identity, on platforms governed by these unseen, unaccountable algorithms. It's a massive wake-up call about who actually holds the keys to your online life.
So just as our online lives felt like they were built on shifting sand, the real world decided, hold my beer. Almost at the same time, the geopolitical landscape just erupted.
Yeah, the timing was incredible.
Events with far more immediate, tangible risks. The stakes couldn't have been higher. We're talking about the U.S. launching Operation Midnight Hammer airstrikes on Iran's key nuclear facilities, Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan.
This wasn't a minor skirmish. This was serious.
No, this was a high-tech, high-stakes gambit, a massive show of force on the global stage.
Absolutely. The military action, launched June 22nd, involved an incredible level of precision, very advanced tech. You had several B-2 Spirit stealth bombers flying these continuous 37-hour round trips from Missouri.
37 hours.
Wow. Yeah, deploying the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, the MOP. It's a 30,000-pound bomb.
The bunker buster.
Exactly. It's the only conventional weapon they think can penetrate Fordo's defenses, which are buried nearly 300 feet underground, deep inside a mountain.
Incredible.
And alongside the B-2s, you had dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from submarines, hitting Natanz and Isfahan. The whole operation involved something like 125 aircraft. A truly sophisticated, multi-layered attack designed for maximum impact.
And then came the spin cycle, the battle damage assessments. It was like everyone was watching a different movie, and they all had their own editors working overtime.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The information war started immediately.
The White House, with Trump, declared Iran's facilities completely and totally obliterated, hailed it as a spectacular military success, claimed Iran was set back decades.
Yeah.
A complete victory, done and dusted.
But then you had leaks from U.S. intelligence, right?
Yeah.
The Defense Intelligence Agency reports painted a far less decisive picture. They were saying the strikes only caused maybe months of delay, not years or decades, and that the core underground facilities were still intact.
Months versus decades, that's a big difference.
A huge difference. And even more revealing, intelligence assessments from European allies started suggesting Iran had already moved hundreds of kilograms of highly enriched uranium before the strikes hit.
So they knew it was coming, or suspected.
It seems like it. Leaving, quote, most of its highly enriched uranium stockpile intact. This discrepancy isn't just about facts, it's about shaping global perceptions, right? Justifying the action, downplaying the impact, rallying support.
It becomes a battle of narratives.
Exactly. It's a real-time stress test on, the basic principles of international relations, where the truth can feel just as malleable as policy.
And this information battle, it was mirrored in the global reactions, wasn't it?
Completely. The UN expressed serious alarm, worried about escalation. Russia and China, predictably, condemned it hard, called it unprovoked aggression, a violation of the UN Charter.
Standard playbook there.
Pretty much. Europe was in a really awkward spot, publicly calling for restraint, but privately, reports suggested some were kind of relieved Iran's program got hit.
Walking a fine line.
Definitely. And meanwhile, Middle Eastern nations like Saudi Arabia and Iraq offered these very complex, cautious responses. Everyone walking a tightrope, trying not to get dragged into a bigger conflict. Feels like every nation had to do its own diplomatic math in real time.
So how did Iran respond on the ground?
It was multifaceted and pretty defiant. They immediately issued diplomatic condemnations, of course. Then they followed up with what seemed like a symbolic ballistic missile strike on the U.S. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
Symbolic how?
Well, it showed they could retaliate, hit a major U.S. base, but apparently without causing casualties. So sending a message without drastically escalating things right then.
All right.
But perhaps the most strategic move was their parliament swiftly passing legislation to terminate cooperation with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency.
So basically kicking out the inspectors.
Essentially, yeah. Pushing their nuclear program into an unprecedented black box state. No more international oversight.
Which leads to the big question.
Right. We connect this to the bigger picture, you have to ask. Did the physical damage actually accelerate the hidden and uncontrollable aspect of Iran's nuclear program?
Could it be a Pyrrhic victory?
That's exactly the term, potentially. Where the cost, in terms of losing control and transparency, far outweighs the immediate gain from the bombing. It's a massive gamble with profoundly uncertain long-term consequences.
Yeah, exactly. This high-stakes brinkmanship and the intense battle over information that follows, it fundamentally shapes global stability, how we perceive power dynamics. Makes you wonder how much of what we hear is actual fact and how much is just narrative shaping.
It's a crucial question these days.
But just when things seemed like they couldn't get any more chaotic, the situation took this pivot. A new, highly unconventional approach to diplomacy that had, I think, everyone scratching their heads.
It was truly dramatic, almost surreal, really. Trump unilaterally announced a complete and total ceasefire on Truth Social, his social media platform.
Not through diplomatic channels, but on social media.
Exactly. Initially, both sides actually violated it, trading accusations back and forth. It felt like watching this tense negotiation just play out in public tweets.
Right.
Then, in this totally unprecedented move, Trump issued a direct, public, almost commanding social media directive straight to Israel. Israel, do not drop those bombs. All caps.
All cap. Just like that.
It's just like that. And that public order seemed to be the critical moment. It apparently salvaged the peace where traditional back-channel diplomacy had seemingly stalled or failed.
I remember just staring at my phone thinking, did that actually just happen?
Mm-hmm.
And the ceasefire timetable was laid out right there in phases.
Yeah, Iran stops attacks by midnight, June 24th. Then, 12 hours later, Israel stops their attacks. And the conflict officially ends 12 hours after Israel complies, midnight, June 25th.
A play-by-play dictated almost entirely via social media posts. Incredible.
This rapid shift, from extreme pressure to this immediate push for peace, it's been articulated by Vice President J.D. Vance as the Trump Doctrine in action.
Okay, what's the doctrine according to Vance?
He defined it with 3 core pillars. First, clearly state U.S. core interests in this case. Iran must not have nuclear weapons. Pretty straightforward.
Right.
Second, aggressively pursue diplomatic solutions, even if that means using military threats as leverage.
The stick and carrot, kinda?
Sort of. And third, when diplomacy fails, use overwhelming military force, but then quickly exit to avoid getting bogged down in protracted conflict. It's very clearly an escalate to de-escalate strategy.
Escalate to de-escalate.
This doctrine, it was efficient in this instance, you could argue. But it's a radical departure from traditional multilateral diplomacy. It raises huge questions about its sustainability for long-term global stability and the trust it might erode among allies who are used to more predictable statecraft.
It's like international relations became a reality TV show, didn't it? The whole world just watching the drama unfold on a smartphone.
That's a fair analogy.
It's certainly efficient, maybe, but it feels incredibly volatile. Does a head of state bypassing all the traditional diplomatic channels for real-time crisis management on social media actually make the world safer or more volatile for you? Because, look, on one hand, it seemed to work this time.
Right.
But on the other hand, what happens when a gamble like that doesn't work? That's the part that kind of keeps me up at night.
That is the crucial question, isn't it? This highly personalized, performative, and potentially unstable diplomatic model just bypasses traditional institutionalized foreign policy, which, has its own cumbersome processes, but it also has built-in checks and balances.
Right, layers of review.
Exactly. This new model shows incredible efficiency, maybe, in a crisis, but its inherent risks are immense if a gambit fails. The stability of global relations in this model seems to hinge entirely on a single leader's judgment, their willingness to walk back from the brink, rather than on a predictable, institutionalized state strategy.
Mhm.
It forces us to really redefine what constitutes legitimate statecraft and global stability in the 21st century.
Okay, so if you thought geopolitics and AI going rogue were the only storms brewing last week, well, think again.
There's more.
Oh yeah. While the world's eyes were glued to the Middle East, a truly bizarre but also economically damaging storm brewed up in East Asia. It all started with a 25-year-old Japanese manga prophecy.
A manga, like a comic book.
You heard that right, a comic book. Sometimes reality is just stranger than fiction, I guess.
Okay, tell me about this manga prophecy. This sounds fascinating.
So this truly fascinating phenomenon, it traces back to an artist named Tatsuki Ryo and her 1999 manga called The Future I Saw.
The future I saw.
Okay, apparently Tatsuki Ryo claimed to have these precognitive dreams, which she then illustrated and published. What made this manga legendary, gave it this almost mythical status, was its supposed track record of accurate predictions.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, most famously, the cover of her 1999 manga literally says Great Catastrophe in March 2011.
Whoa. That's chillingly specific given the 3.101 East Japan earthquake.
Exactly. She also reportedly predicted the 1995 Hanshin earthquake and even Freddie Mercury's death, apparently. So this kind of track record builds a powerful mystique around your work.
I can see why people would pay attention then.
So given that, let's just say, unusual track record, people definitely paid attention when the manga was re-released in 2021 with an alarming new prophecy, July 5th, 2025.
Okay, what's supposed to happen on July 5th, 2025?
Get this. It warned of the Philippine Sea, seabed fracturing, leading to boiling oceans, a tsunami 3 times larger than the 3.11 disaster,
3 times larger. That's unimaginable.
and the literal rise of a new continent connecting Hong Kong, Taiwan, and the Philippines.
Wait, a new continent just popping up?
Like a giant geologic zit. Seriously, that's quite the prediction to slap on a comic book cover.
And this prophecy, it actually gained traction.
It found a perfect storm for going viral in 2025.
Hmm.
It got amplified like crazy on TikTok, Weibo, Reddit, with hashtags like hashtag July 2025 prediction, pushed it out to millions of people.
Social media amplification.
And crucially, some online opinion leaders, including apparently a prominent Hong Kong feng shui master, publicly advised people to avoid Japan in July. That added this layer of perceived authority, lending credibility to these fantastical claims.
Wow, feng shui master is getting involved.
This whole phenomenon tapped directly into the cultural resonance of yogin, or prophecies, in East Asia. These narratives can gain significant traction, especially in anxious, uncertain times. Its narrative appeal just completely trumped scientific accuracy.
So emotion and story overrode facts.
Totally. It shows how emotional resonance can just bypass factual skepticism sometimes.
And did this actually have real-world effects?
Oh, the immediate, tangible economic impact was shocking. Travel agencies in Hong Kong and Taiwan reported drops of up to 50% in Japan bookings for Easter. And for late June, early July, a staggering 80% plunge.
80%. That's huge.
Think about the financial hit to small businesses, hotels, restaurants in Japan. Airlines like Hong Kong Airlines and Greater Bay Airlines were forced to cancel or significantly reduce flights because demand just evaporated.
Wow. All based on a manga prediction.
Even the Chinese embassy in Japan issued a travel warning. Now, they didn't name the manga directly, but the timing was, let's just say, remarkably coincidental.
Okay, from a scientific perspective, this is nonsense, right?
Well, geologists were quick to point out that the scenario of a new continent forming suddenly is scientifically impossible.
Yeah, I would think so.
Landmass formation is a geological process. It takes millions of years, driven by plate tectonics over vast timescales. It's not a single instantaneous event. It just doesn't work that way.
So this wasn't really a scientific debate at all.
No, it was purely a phenomenon of belief, of fear, maybe.
But here's the ultimate twist in this bizarre saga.
Oh, there's a twist.
The manga artist herself, Tatsuki Ryo, had to come out and clarify the prophecy.
What does she say?
She stated that 4.18, which was mentioned in the prophecy, was the time she had the dream, not the time the disaster was supposed to happen.
Ah, okay. A misunderstanding.
And that really sensational phrase, true disaster in July 2025, Turns out that was added by her publisher's editor for marketing purposes.
No way. It was just marketing hype.
Literally a sales tactic. One that went massively viral and caused real economic damage because people bought into a manufactured crisis based on a dream interpretation amplified by an editor.
That is absolutely wild. It's a good reminder to always check your sources, maybe especially when they come from a comic book's marketing department.
Right. This whole phenomenon, though, it tells us such a profound story about what we're calling the anxiety economy.
The anxiety economy. Explain that.
It just demonstrates how deeply fear and uncertainty can make entire societies susceptible to misinformation. And that misinformation then has very real economic consequences.
Because people are looking for answers, any answers.
Exactly. People faced with overwhelming uncertainty, complex global realities, they'll grasp onto anything that offers a sense of narrative coherence or maybe a feeling of control, even if that means canceling a trip based on a decades-old comic book prediction amplified online. The real insight here is just how powerful belief, even belief in fiction, can be in shaping our real-world actions and our markets. It really forces you to ask, how do you navigate a world where information, even fictional information, can have such a powerful, tangible impact on economies and daily life?
So we've kind of come full circle now, haven't we? It really does feel like this past week was a massive pressure test on our core systems.
It really does.
From tech giants struggling with their own AI creations to global powers seemingly redrawing the rules of engagement in real time, and even an old comic book crashing a regional tourism economy. Everything seems to be exposing a new layer of fragility in our modern world. It's unsettling, but also kind of fascinating.
Yeah, and if we bring it all together, we've seen, I think, 3 really critical takeaways this week.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, the urgent need for platform transparency and, crucially, human oversight when AI starts governing these vast digital public spaces. Our digital commons are built on pretty fragile foundations.
Right. Don't let the algorithm run unsupervised.
Basically. Second, we saw a dramatic redrawing of geopolitical rules with the rise of this personalized, unpredictable diplomacy and the inherent, often unseen risks of those escalate to de-escalate strategies.
High risk, high reward, maybe.
Maybe, but the risk is huge. And finally, the profound imbalance of our information ecosystem. It showed how easily misinformation can create real economic and social chaos in this anxiety economy we just talked about.
Yeah. So what does all this mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of it all?
Well, I think it means the vital need for critical thinking has just never been greater.
Absolutely.
It means demanding accountability from these powerful systems, tech platforms, governments that impact our lives every day. And it means actively building resilience in what feels like an increasingly uncertain world.
Because frankly, the world isn't getting any less complicated, is it?
Not likely, no.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with.
Yeah. In a world where algorithms can apparently erase your community overnight, where a single tweet can dictate peace or conflict, and where an old comic book prediction can actually crash an economy, where do you find your anchors? Your anchors of truth and stability.
That's a deep one.
And maybe think about this. What's one area in your own life where you feel a system you rely on? Maybe it's tech, maybe financial, maybe informational, might be more fragile than you previously thought.